You are now listening to Mighty Champions Action Figure Radio.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Mighty Champions Action Figure Radio. My name is Jon Sargent.
And my name is Christian McGahan.
And we are a brand new podcast just starting today. Be patient with us. And we're coming to you to fill a hole in the action figure space. We have noticed that no one is really covering a spectrum of action figures. Everything seems kind of specialized, either Star Wars or wrestling or Marvel or DC or Transformers or G.I. Joe. We kind of want to cover everything. Not really too many people talking about vintage and new. We kind of want to cover all of that, at least in the space that we're interested in.
100%.
So that's what we're going to try to do. And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, who the heck are you and why do I care what you think? That's a
good question. John, why don't you tell me about yourself?
Okay. I am a massive nerd. You guys have potentially listened to my voice on several other podcasts before. If you're finding this through @Mighty Champions on Instagram, you probably have been following me through Good Bad 2, the sequel, the movie podcast, or maybe Good Bad Wrestling, the wrestling podcast, or maybe This Business, the wrestling podcast. So some of you might know who I am. Others probably know Christian through his band Virtue. But if you've never heard either of our voices before, I am a huge nerd. I love superheroes pretty much blanket in general, but I gravitate more towards Marvel than I do DC by quite a lot. And that's not actually like a negative on DC. Marvel is pumping through my veins, which started like when I can remember. Like I remember watching the 80s Hulk show in 4 years old, probably, something like that. And it was like back to back with Robocop, the cartoon.
There was a Robocop cartoon?
Dude, back in the day, every rated R violent movie was paired with a child Saturday morning cartoon to go with it. And actually, now's as good a time as any to reveal my all-time favorite toy. I don't know if I've ever actually told you this.
Literally never.
My favorite toy ever is Robocop's car from the cartoon.
Okay.
It's called Robo 1. Awesome. It's kind of shaped like a DeLorean. Like it's that same pointy nose kind of shape.
That's awesome.
And the front cockpit, I guess, slides open like the Batmobile, and the Robocop figure fit inside of it. And that was my toy awakening that sort of detail or engineering or whatever was like possible. And I don't remember playing with a lot of toys. I remember that one, like big time.
I love that. So right now, if you let the people know what you are currently collecting.
What I've got going on right now, you guys can definitely check out @Mighty Champions. A lot of the pictures and stuff are on there. We're going to share Christian's space also. I have got my main collection, like my main is wrestling. Between current WWE Mattel and current AEW Jazzwares. I use my Detolf shelf. If you guys aren't familiar with what a Detolf is, we could explain that later on too. It's a big glass shelf. I use that as a display space and as a ranking system for my all-time favorite wrestlers because like categorizing and ranking is just something I like doing. So that's my main thing. I have overflow wrestling space for like the guys who don't make my top, 48 or whatever fits in that shelf. Then I've got my Jim Lee / X-Men animated series X-Men space, which is next to my Spider-Man animated series space, which those are all modern Marvel Legends. And it's a mixture of retro cards or VHS boxes or whatever.
Basically your defining version of that character.
Yeah, my definitive version of the character, which in this case X-Men is the animated series, and for Spider-Man it is the animated series.
Yeah.
And then I've also got another section of Marvel where I've got an Avengers shelf, like a street level or kind of Marvel Knights kind of shelf.
Yeah.
And then a Fantastic Four area also. And then I've got a little bit of a G.I. Joe classified collection. I love G.I. Joe Real American Hero, the show, the cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
I collected the OG figures when I was a kid. I don't even know how to tell you how I feel about the classified figures. When I've got one in my hand,
yeah,
I love the idea of an action figure with guns and backpacks, and it is the most action figure. But they're also in a space in my room where I look at them the least.
Yeah, it's been the thing of like a discussion of if something better comes along, they're going to take the hike.
Exactly. If something's going to get cut, it's probably going to be those. But at the same time, if they take a big upswing and stuff I care about, I'm going to add more of them also. Or if they hit Ross for $5.
Exactly.
And then I also have, I'm trying to like mentally go around my room. I also have a display for the NWO, which I put in the WCW ring, and the WCW ring was way bigger than I thought it was going to be. You've seen it. Mm-hmm. And I needed to actually buy a whole new shelf that acts as a base to put the ring on because the ring is so big.
Yeah. And
it turned into a religious shrine to the NWO in my room. So that is also in there. And my movie shelf. So then I've got a movie shelf, which is not beholden to any like line. I try to keep the scale relatively close, but it's kind of impossible. But that's 80s and 90s movie heroes. Back to the Future, right. Terminator, Superman, Indiana Jones, those guys.
Yeah.
And I'm very much still hunting those. My rule for that is I've got to find it in person.
Got to find it in person and the definitive version of that person. So you recently bought Indiana Jones and you were like, this one is my favorite movie. It was like a different outfit.
Oh yeah, they had Temple of Doom and they had Raiders of the Lost Ark. And Temple of Doom is my favorite Indiana Jones movie, but Raiders of the Lost Ark, like that's just what
he looks like. Yeah,
that's just what Indiana Jones looks like. So that's the one I went with. Yeah, and the leg broke off as soon as I opened it.
Perfect timing.
So that's kind of where my interests are. There's definitely stuff that we'll probably say for another episode that is like.
Did you mention Batman animated series?
Figures? Oh crap! No, I also have the Kenner. Sorry, yeah, I'm like trying to remember. I also have so everything that I just mentioned is loose.
Right, you open it.
I open 95.8% of my figures.
Pretty much, yeah.
I have another thing. So I have the 90s Kenner Batman animated series figures. Just the ones that are the animated series, not the Batman and Robin Adventures,
right.
Not the Mask of Phantasm, not the, I forget what it's called, crime fighting something or other.
Yeah.
Just the ones that are about the show I can see over your shoulder here.
Yeah.
And those are mint on card, like mint on card. And then those I'm willing to get on eBay or find in the wild or whatever. I just want to have the checklist.
Yeah.
And those are up on the wall. I also have in the Marvel Legends, the new Marvel Legends, mint on card, the retro carded, but like a select few that are just, in my opinion, too cool to open.
Yeah, you've got a good handful of those.
Yeah, and I tried to do one or two from Spider-Man, one or two from X-Men, Fantastic Four. I need a Ghost Rider. I opened my Ghost Rider, and like that one definitely counts. Anything that's replicating the Toy Biz before your era.
Yeah,
like
90s, late 90s, mid 90s,
like early 90s, early 90s Toy Biz. Any of the current Marvel Legends that are replicating the early 90s Toy Biz carding, or even the ones before that, like the Secret Wars, or the one with like the stars. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, the superheroes.
Yeah. Anything that's replicating those retro things, and it's a character that I love, is just too cool to open. So I either don't open it or I buy two of them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where my space is at. And then I am an avid hunter.
You hunt more than I do.
You will catch me in the streets at a Walmart, at a Target, at a vintage store, which we're going to break one down here a little bit later. If you're out in the Austin, Texas area or wherever I happen to be traveling, you're going to see me out there looking for toys.
You're like the guy that where like people dream about a dude. Have you ever seen that? Where it's like somebody that there's like a drawing of a guy where many people have had that.
Slender Man.
It's Slender Man, but there's another one. He's like it's like a weird, creepy photo, but it's like,
I'm not so Slender Man.
Yeah. They all dream about the same guy. It's like, have you seen this man? And it's like you, but it's just you, like in Walmart. Yeah. I mean, you are definitely diligent.
If you were in Walmart and somebody walked from behind you at 30 miles an hour and blew right past you and then just
if you were an old woman pushing a cart and got pushed down because this guy was going to see the wrestling section at Walmart, that's John.
And then came back by you 30 seconds later, furious that he couldn't find any Monday Night Wars in Walmart.
Exactly. I mean, that's the difference. It's like, I still go every time I go to Walmart, every time I go to Target, but I don't collect modern right now. I was collecting the McFarlane DCE, but then we'll talk about that in grand detail about the sort of like poor relationship that we have with the McFarlane figures.
The abusive relationship that we've been in
100%. Yeah. And, but I still go and check because I'm just obviously genuinely interested in knowing what's in there, but I obviously don't collect. But yeah, for you, it's like, yeah, you're in there grinding in the trenches of Walmart's, Target's.
It is slowing down for me because a lot of my checklist is checked off. I don't have a huge portion of my displays that I need to capture.
Right.
The hunt, the thrill of the hunt is still thriving inside of me. So when I do check off everything, I'm just going to find something else to hunt. So, but right now I really don't need that much stuff from Target or Walmart or like.
Plus, you're just not going to find it. Like it's
not in our area.
Yeah, I mean it's so few and far between that it just makes the process like not worth it. You know?
Yes and no, like, but also sometimes like I'll leave work and I'll have some time to kill and I'm just gonna go to Target, see what's up.
Yeah.
And I have found stuff doing that by just stopping in when I wasn't intending to.
That's always how it happens.
Yeah. When you stop looking, that's when you'll find it.
That's when you'll find it. Yeah.
That sort of thing. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. What's your strategy?
Yeah. So as John mentioned before, that you've maybe heard my voice in other places. We're like massively famous. You may have heard me before on
in the early 2000s. I was in a German publication about wrestling, so
that's true. Pro wrestler. When you were writing that in the description, I was like, wait a minute, you pro wrestler?
You may have heard about me in some German pro wrestling magazine in the early 2000s that I don't know the name of.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, again, I do vocals for a hardcore band here in Austin named Virtue. I have a podcast of my own called the Max Effort Podcast that I do pretty much just like occasional interview, but primarily with myself. I am mentally a professional baseball player, and that is a mental thing. And then I collect primarily, like we talked about, the Marvel Legends, but Toy Biz before Hasbro took over the line. So anywhere from 2000 to 2006 is my wheelhouse. It is my obsession. It's been my obsession since I was a kid, since I first laid eyes on them when they were in Walmart hanging on the peg for $7.95 or whatever it was back then. And I would beg my mom to get them for me. So right now I'm basically just chasing down what I had when I was younger and then going beyond that and getting the ones that I wanted, that I never could find in the wild. But one of the things that I did was I repeatedly went to marvel.com and then it had like a toy tab, and the tab I believe would lead you to toybiz.com/Marvel or something like that. It was on dial-up internet, so it took a minute to find out, but I basically would just look at all of those toys, and to me there were some that I would see all the time in Walmart's, pretty much just Walmart because I'm from Bastrop and that's all we had at the time, a small town. And I would look at all these others and I, in my mind, just believed that they didn't exist. I was like, these other ones just aren't real. I don't ever see them at Walmart. So they're just like not actually real figures because I don't ever see them.
It's really interesting how we have the exact same hobby and completely different points of view on the hobby because I'm like 10 years older than you.
Yeah.
Because that was the only way. I only knew if toys were real because I saw them in the store.
Yeah.
And then you find out what, like, later on message boards that there was a green card series of WWF Hasbro figures, which I also collect. I forgot to mention that. And that was so many people my age. That's how they found out that existed.
Yeah. Yeah. And the one thing that changed my perspective of that was going to Toys R Us for the first time. I've been to Toys R Us twice in my life. In the heyday, one time. That's the second time I went was when it was dying on the vine, and it was the most depressing thing I've ever seen. But when I went in, it was overflowing with people. The shelves were flush. It was like I had tunnel vision so bad that all I can see is blurry images of just like, I look in right now when I walk in there, and it's a straight line to the toy aisle of like action figures. And I see Omega Red for the first time. And Omega Red was one of those that I would see on the website and not know if it was actually real or not. And I saw it there in the flesh, and I was like, oh my God, they're real.
How old are you?
I had to have been like anywhere between 9 and 11, something like that.
Oh my God. Like, the power of how cool Omega Red is versus a child is a tremendous mismatch.
Oh my God.
A tremendous, it's like the Legion of Doom and me. There's nothing I could have done to not have been a wrestling fan because the Legion of Doom existed.
I was so overwhelmed just looking there, because I remember also seeing a Colossus, because I had never seen him in the wild either. And yeah, I just remember being so overwhelmed that I left the aisle and didn't look at it, because I knew I wasn't going to be able to get any of them. And I was like, this is too much. I'm gone. I'm out. And that was the last time I ever went there. And I just would like literally have dreams about it. That's how much I knew it was like invading my subconscious, because most of my dreams were just Power Rangers and X-Men.
So what was your main toy location?
Walmart.
Okay.
Yeah, the Walmart, but it was flush though. You know, like looking back, it was overflow. Like it wasn't like it is now, where it's like, it was just toys were the thing. Like we talked about with Robocop, they're just going to make toys of everything because they know for sure one thing's going to sell.
I'm sure in the future we'll get into just pick a movie from back in the day, talk about the toys of that movie. But when I was growing up, you could count on it. Everything. If you saw the trailer for a movie, your next thought was, "Where's the toys?"
I mean, I feel like Jingle All the Way is a perfect example of that. I mean, obviously that was probably, was it 95 or 96 or something like that?
96. Timeless holiday classic, Jingle All the Way.
Exactly. So it's like, even in that was before my time of consciousness. I don't think I've had, maybe I was like 4 at the time, but that's a perfect example of like what the toy stores looked like, where they were just flush with everything. And then going to KB Toys, which God tier above God tier. That was also the same thing. It's overflowing. You would never think that they weren't going to have something there. And with Walmart, like they would get new shipments regularly, because every time I would go to the store with my mom, I would say, "Can I go to the toy aisle?" or I'd ask that, and I'd go. And then I'd go in and look, and there would always be something new that I would be like, "Oh my God."
Like, how you corrected yourself just in case your mom listens. I was asking, I wasn't telling.
Yeah. Oh my God. I remember specifically going in there. This is funny. I don't think I've ever told you this story. I remember going in the toy aisle of the Walmart, finding, and we had just been talking, because this is the first time you've seen my collection in person, and the Punisher, Spider-Man, Daredevil, Elektra, and I believe Bullseye. It's the Urban Legends pack. I don't think Bullseye's in it, but the Urban Legends 4-pack or 5-pack, whatever it was, Marvel Legends, with this like God tier, was in Walmart that day. And I think at the time it was $50 or something like that. $49 something for 5 figures or 4 figures, which is insane. I remember looking at
That's almost one Maximum Series Hulk.
100%, exactly. And we're obviously going to talk about that type of stuff. But I'm in there looking at it, and I'm freaking out. I see waves and waves and waves of people all moving in the same direction, like a flock of animals. And my mom walks past the toy aisle, and she says, "Hey, come on, we need to leave." And I'm like, "Why? What's happening?" Because somebody called in a bomb threat to the Walmart. And I'm like, "But the urban legends. Like, like I'm like,
there's bigger fish to fry.
Exactly.
Here.
Like, yeah.
I thought you were saying they were stampeding the other direction, and like Tickle Me Elmo had just come out or something.
Oh no, yeah, no bomb threat.
People getting trampled. Yeah. So Toys R Us was my main spot. The town I grew up in, there was no toy store, but the next town, like the real town, there was a Toys R Us. And if I could get my dad to take me to a toy store, it was going to be Toys R Us. And it's what you've heard. It was the stuff of legends. It was heaven. It was Valhalla. It was where I'm going to go when I die.
Oh my God.
And, I would go there for my birthday. I would go there for other kids' birthdays and get the lecture about how you're not getting anything for yourself, and that never held up. Ninja Turtles. I also have Ninja Turtles.
You do have Ninja Turtles, Super 7, right? I have
the Super 7 Ninja Turtles collection. I think that's it. And Toys R Us was just everything to me as like a little kid. And it hurts my soul that it's not really around, at least in the way that it was before.
Yeah.
For sure. What is your DC? Because you got a DC side and a Marvel side. What's the rules there?
Yeah, with the DC side, as I mentioned before, that I was collecting pretty heavily with the McFarlane, and I mean, it just was like it got old really fast with McFarlane because I don't know, the same build, the same face reused for certain figures that would come out. It'd be like, hey, this is the Joker body, and then also we're going to use the same body for the Question. And then it's just like so obviously a repaint. And a lot of what they do is just like how much money can we try to generate, but also how much money can we save. So I don't know, man. It just burnt me out. I wasn't feeling the same joy. Like when I looked at the figures, it was kind of like, that's a pretty cool Batman figure. I'll hold on to that or I'll get that. And it was primarily Batman for the most part. But I offloaded that and kind of completely gave myself a clean slate. And the goal was to pursue the DC Universe Classics line, which I believe started like mid 2000s, maybe like from probably 2008 to about 2012. For some reason, that line for me just really hits. When I look at the character designs, it's just like it rings out that sort of classic feel for the DC Universe that I see. It's kind of like when you're picking out comic book art, or if you said anybody like, who's your Superman or who's your Batman, and then you automatically envision it in your brain because of whatever impact it had on you. But that's kind of how those are for me. So going back and collecting those, since I'm still with the Marvel collection, I'm just so much further along with the Marvel side because obviously for me, that was like really where my heart was at. So being able to chase down that is just more of that nostalgia drug that I'm just kind of inducing into myself, into my veins, essentially. But with the DC line, my rules are essentially like, if I like it and if it kind of fits that vision I have for like what DC was for me. So obviously Batman animated series for me, I know like you're not the biggest fan of the new Batman adventures with Batman and Robin or whatever,
no.
But that was like where I, stepped into consciousness because, that was kind of where it was for me. So that Justice League Unlimited, that kind of look, but with the DC Direct and the DC Universe Classics, like to me, it just kind of captures what I am seeing. And maybe because it's like pre-2020s era, pre-collecting, it just kind of is what it is.
Yeah.
And I see that and it just like
more Wild West.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, oh my God, this is really cool. I would have bought this when I was younger and I would have loved every bit of it. They are more expensive. So going back with, and this is something we'll definitely talk about pricing wise, but with the Marvel Legends, they're relatively cheap because Marvel Legends is an ongoing line right now with Hasbro that's killing it. And those figures are radiating $24 to obviously $69, whatever they are right now. But with these, even like the bangers are like not that expensive. I think on average, you're looking at like $25 for a figure.
Is that starting to change though? Because when we talked about, and we should also talk about you telling me that you're not a collector when we first started spending time around each other. When you decided like, you know what, I'm going to go hard and heavy after the Toy Biz Marvel Legends. And I remember we talked about, I was like, that's a good idea because I think you're kind of the first one to hit that retro space. So you could probably get a lot of them for cheap. But I'm seeing a lot more interest of them lately.
Yeah.
Because I think some people have completed their Hasbros,
Hasbro.
and I think a lot of people are turned off by what's happening to the prices, and I think a lot of people are turning towards the same thing. Have you noticed like a price increase?
I noticed the only price increase I noticed, which was Gambit after Wolverine, Deadpool and Wolverine came out.
Yeah,
that was, I know that jumped up, but to be honest, like in person, which is generally where I'm gonna buy it, because eBay's cool. I mean, eBay will literally have everything that I need and more, but it just doesn't have the same, like, going to a toy store, finding it. I want that,
Yeah.
you know? So my sort of rule and kind of what we talked about earlier, which is, you know, like going consistently to Walmart's, Targets, or whatever. Obviously, I'm not going to find any of those there. So for me, it's like, and my girlfriend, who's like becoming an avid collector, even more dangerous than I.
Oh yeah. We're talking about rules.
There's no rules.
She's a Ronin.
Exactly.
She is an absolute
She plays by
Ronin.
her own rules. But so like we love to go to toy stores, right? And we're going to talk about some vintage toy stores, but they're always going to have at least one or two of these. And so that's kind of where I find my joy, is just like, hey, let me look forward to that moment where, you know, we go find places here in Texas, or, you know, we have plans to go to places in other states, which you've done before. But yeah, I mean, with the DC stuff, my DC shelf right now is pretty small. I don't really have certain rules about it. Not really. I mean, I just love the figure so much that I think right now it's like, if I love it, I want to buy it. And to me, that kind of mimics how it was when I was younger. Like, I'm not really looking at it and just being like, oh, well, it doesn't have this cape or whatever. Like, there's a Batman I have on the top that is purple, but for some reason I saw that and I was like, I would have loved that when I was younger, and I bought it for $6 next to the Robin.
Yeah.
And, cause it just looks like how it would look when I was a kid. And I want to buy like that in a way.
I think your DC approach is cool, Batman.
Yeah, literally.
Which I kind of envy. When the first time I ever registered a collection when I was a kid was, I just called it my Batman collection.
Mm-hmm.
And it was inside of this like hutch with sliding doors, and it was anything that had the Batman symbol on it. Like, it was action figures, it was McDonald's French fry containers,
Mm-hmm.
Happy Meal toys, it was anything. So you're kind of taking, you know, you're not as much of like a hoarder scrounger as I was doing when I was a kid, but basically, like, if it's cool to you, then here it is. And I'm actually looking at your DC collection, and it's really getting me itchy.
Dude, yes.
I have had a space, not really in my toy room, but I've had a space in my heart available, waiting
Mm-hmm.
to make a decision on what it is that I want to do with a 6-inch relative articulated DC area. I know it's not McFarlane, because I honestly, like, you're like, you liked them and then you went off of them. I have never liked them.
Yeah.
And I actually actively dislike the business practices of McFarlane Toys. But I'm looking at your shelf and I'm like, man, that, like, it's also kind of sparse because you pared down. And I'm like, I told you when I got here, it looks like potential to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I cannot wait to have like a DC thing going and start making some rules for DC.
Yeah, and exactly. Like, I think one, maybe 3 of these figures that I have here, this Green Lantern, one of the Superman, and I think that might be it. But a lot of them I bought loose because, again, the packaging for the Marvel Legends is so much more like striking to me. It's the thing that like I said, was just like, I breathe it in. When I open the figures, I smell the plastic and I'm like, oh my God. But then with DC stuff, like, because I was a little sporadic with DC when I was younger, I had a lot of the Batman animated series toys at that time, and then also like Batman Beyond, and then like occasional like a Superman here and there. But I never like was like into a certain line. It was just the definition of walking in, seeing something that you like, and then getting it. So if I buy loose, I'm literally cool with that. And because they are more expensive in package, like, for example, I don't know, maybe this Orion figure, which is like the Jack Kirby Fourth World character. if I try to find him in box, it'd probably be like $70-$80 or something like that. And I'm like, that's kind of my rule with like, and we've talked about this before, but I'll put it out there, which is like, if I go to a toy store, I want to leave with like items. I don't want to just get one item. And that's why like, I feel like I'm in a sweet spot because I'm not collecting things that are ultra expensive, but they're just like $25-$30. And literally like for me, if the figure is like beyond probably like $45, that's probably where I'm out. And so if I can find these figures loose, I'm totally cool with that because they're going to be like $20, $15-$20, and I'm down for that. And they're going to fill the space that I want to occupy. So
makes sense to me, man. Yeah, that's pretty much where we're coming from. Definitely interested in where you guys are coming from. Like, what is in your collection? What is your rules? What are you hunting for? What are your rules? Where'd you start at? Hit us up at Mighty Champions because we want to know what's going on in your collection. We're gonna hit you now with the news.
And the reason why we started this podcast is because John and I work together. We talk religiously about this every single day. And we decided, hey, you know what? Let's talk about it over
when we share our passion.
Share the passion, connect with people, and just take it a step further because it's an obsession that we can no longer deny.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when we're doing this, we're going to have like reoccurring segments like the news where we're about to share with you guys some stuff that just got announced in the last handful of days. Or maybe that something went up for a pre-order or that something actually hit the shelves.
For people who are collecting like modern.
Yeah. And then we're also going to have mixtures of stuff that, Christian wants me to do a segment called John Versus. Because I have a tendency to get into confrontations with absolute strangers.
If you remember earlier in the conversation when we talked about John pushing over an old lady to get to the wrestling
never
section,
happened.
It, that's not out of the question.
That never happened.
It's usually you returning and being like, man, I was trying to get to the toy aisle, but then whatever.
There was a bunch of kids in the toy section.
Exactly. Like, what are you punks doing in here?
Okay, so I'm going to hit you guys with some of this wrestling news that actually came out in basically today. There is a Randy Orton Ultimate Edition fan takeover, which I think the fan takeovers are Amazon exclusive. And it appears to be the Evolution kind of era with the Intercontinental title, and he's got some blue trunks on. It looks cool. Personally, I have no F's to give about Randy Orton. I think he's one of the most boring wrestlers who ever lived, but this figure does look really good. There was also announced today, Mattel is doing a WWE Evolution of John Cena Elite 3-pack, which it looks pretty cool. There's like a Doctor of Thugonomics rapper, like almost prototype, like that mixture with the tall boots. And then there's a chain gang soldier with the US title. And then there's like a modern old head John Cena. So that's a 3-pack with all three of them in it. John Cena, again, one of my least favorite wrestlers ever, but I think this 3-pack looks really good.
Is that a shots fired kind of statement?
I don't think so. I mean, when he was in like his like heyday, the entire crowd would go back and forth chanting "Let's go Cena, Cena sucks." So it's not like 50% of the people have always hated John Cena.
Gotcha.
And I'm still in that camp. I think he is a god awful professional wrestler. Like I genuinely, and right now he's the WWE champion again, and people are not enjoying the time with Mr. Cena being back.
Yeah.
There also was the announcement of the newest Monday Night Wars Elite Wave. And Christian's very familiar with my relationship with the Monday Night Wars series. At first, I was a completist, an in-box completist. The hunt was so aggravating and time-consuming that I ended up cutting it down to opening the ones that I wanted to open and not having any of them inbox anymore.
Because it was so impossible to find them.
Because it's just the hardest hunt anyone has ever experienced for anything. And that green carded WWF Hasbro that nobody knew about, this is a current huge line that's as impossible to find. And that's the same experience across the world.
Yeah.
Or the country, or really, because it's a Walmart exclusive. So, like, no one's, like, just finding them.
Well, you would go to the Walmart by the gym, and you'd walk in and be like, hey, it says this is here. And then they'd obviously be, like, drones there and be like, no, it's not, or I'll go check the back and then never come back or whatever. Like,
I was getting the SKU from people online and going in and scanning the SKU and, like, that kind of stuff. Like, I was hitting... in my darkest hour, I was hitting 2 to 3 Walmarts a day.
Yeah.
Across 15, 20 miles.
Yep.
And 15, 20, if you're not in the Austin area, 15 or 20 miles, that's about 3.5 hours.
Yeah. It's like the planet on Interstellar where it's like 7 minutes is 720 years on Earth. It's
I'm
like,
standing there ankle deep in still water.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know for a while I was like, man, I'm going to just pull up and you're going to be in war paint with your shirt off with a spear facing Walmart like a dragon.
But the newest Monday Night War Elite Series is Brian Pillman, the loose cannon Brian Pillman, with the Heart Foundation shirt and a crutch, which is just so cool if you're from that era. And then there is... an American Badass Undertaker from his debut as the American Badass, which looks great. I think there's some other ABA Undertakers that are out, but this one's definitely the best of those for sure. Like, it's straight out of the No Mercy video game. And then there is this one is wild. So this is John Tenta, otherwise known as Earthquake in the 80s. But this figure is the Shark. So when he left the WWF as Earthquake, he went to WCW and they couldn't call him Earthquake. So he was the Shark. And it was so dumb and bad that he ended this gimmick on TV, like part of the storyline by proclaiming that he is not a shark. He's a man. And
bizarre.
It was one of the funniest things I've ever, like, on rewatch. Hilarious. Yeah. So that's like deep cuts. That's where this line is going. There's so many headliners that they haven't done, and they're doing the deepest of cuts already. So I obviously was not into, like, wrestling. I never watched wrestling as a kid. So, like, the bite, even though most people, like, I think if you look back in the 90s and in the 80s, most people grew up, like, in some capacity watching wrestling. So you, like, just, like, getting to know your collection and then just asking you questions about that. But, like, you, I think, told me that, like, wrestling's probably the biggest collecting, I think wrestling's probably the biggest, like, world of collectors. So the wrestling action figures, if you just break it down to action figures, right? Not records or whatever. Right. Yeah. I think wrestling is, like, making the most money. Gotcha. There is also in this Monday Night Wars wave a Eric Bischoff with gray hair. Cool, neat. And then the Build-A-Figure for that wave is Michael Cole from the Attitude Era, which is cool if you're putting together an Attitude Era shelf. Like, that's pretty necessary. Yeah. They also showed off Elite Collection 119, so that it's also Wrestling's the Biggest Face. The Mattel WWE figures is the longest running action figure series ever. Their main line, the Elites, is up to series 119. Crazy. Is what's being announced here. And that would be Dexter Loomis, which is whatever. There's a Dirty Dom, which I like Dirty Dom. I just don't need the figure. There is a Braun Breaker in the Tiger Stripes. There's an Ethan Page, who is my boy, and kind of the reason why I got back into collecting figures was because of his vlog. In part because of his vlog. It was actually 50% his vlog and 50% something that's going to come up in the Marvel Legends news. And a Liv Morgan is in there as well. And that is pretty much the wrestling figure news. You got some DC stuff?
So again, not the biggest fan of McFarlane, but for some reason, I think because well known that they're losing the DC.
As far as we know, it's supposed to be about 12 months from now. I think it's June of 26.
Something like that. Going back to Mattel. So that'll be really interesting to speculate what that's going to look like, which is kind of like scary to me because I'm already pursuing a Mattel collection from 15 years ago or whatever. And so it's like, well, crap. Do I hold off and then wait to see what they have? But I think what's keeping me sturdy right now is the fact that I know that like just paying the prices of like modern day collections kind of keeps me at bay a little bit. And because it's so hard to get, it's like if you don't pre-order it, you miss it, or you might see it in the store, maybe. I don't know. But outside of that, we'll get to that later in these episodes. But with McFarlane, they did actually drop a couple of bangers. I'm not going to lie. Like,
so you were talking about when we were going through your bio about how you felt about what McFarlane is and does and repaints. I will argue in their favor. Recently, they have started putting out the headliner characters in the best versions of those headliner characters
100%.
And getting them out fast.
Yeah, they're pumping them out like crazy.
It's the very definition of too little, too late.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like, I look at these and I'm like, where were you 2 years ago?
Yeah.
You know, like where were you? It's like, I think they realized, because honestly, if you look at McFarlane Instagram when they're posting stuff, you go and it's 300 comments and they're all negative.
Oh yeah.
To the point where they've had to like respond and be like, well, the reason why we made this price is because, and it's just like, dude, that must suck. Where like this thing that you're creating, everybody hates. And so now they've turned up the gas a little bit and they're like, all right, well, we're going to step it up. We're going to make versions of the characters that people actually like. And then also we're going to deep dive and grab these other characters that are like deep cuts, right? So they pull a lot from the Justice League Unlimited, where most people don't know who Shining Knight is. They don't know who Vigilante is. They don't know, you know, I don't know, just whatever other like background characters that are all like kind of golden age, silver age characters of DC, which I love those characters so much. But it looks like some of the multiverse reveals that they have coming out, some of them are page punchers. I think other ones are just going to be like regular. They might all be page punchers actually, but
no, there's some regular ones in there.
Regular ones. But yeah, I mean, like they've got a Superboy, another Wonder Woman, a Steve Trevor, kind of all classic design. This Batman that they have that is the No Man's Land Batman.
That's the one with the tall ears.
It has tall ears. It's blue, yellow, and gray, which to me is like a perfect color. It looks really cool. Like I'm like, I like that, and I hope somebody enjoys that. They have Mr. Miracle, Nightwing. There's a Sandman figure.
Is the 80s Nightwing?
70s, I think. Or maybe whichever one he became with like the disco suit, as they call it.
Yeah, the pop collar.
Yeah, that one I'm like, you know, I like it because of the history of the character. Not my favorite suit though. A little too.
I like ironically like it. Yeah. I wouldn't buy a figure of that.
I wouldn't wear it myself. But
I wouldn't go outside looking like that.
I would wear the blue and black one. I will say that. But the Mr. Miracle figure, which is it's not bad. The face is a little wacky. There is a Sandman figure, which Sandman is one of my favorite characters. I love the aesthetic so much of this character because it's like the perfect like noir. And JSA is something that like I think is like perfectly encapsulates like what I see from DC. So I have like obviously like Our Man, the Alan Scott, Green Lantern, Dr. Midnight, like those characters, and Sandman. But for some reason, it's just like a random suit. Unless I just don't know where it's from, but it doesn't look like the characters. He normally wears green and purple. Mm-hmm. This one's like blue pants, black boots, gray jacket, and it looks like literally, I think it's the reprint, because looking at the pants, I think it's the reprint of the Heath Ledger Joker.
Oh my God.
So like, again, I look at these and I'm like, holy crap, are they about to pull me back in? And then I see one detail like that and I'm like, I'm good. I'm back. I'm out.
Just when I thought I was out, I'm out.
Pull me back in. Yeah. And then, Beast Boy, Mirror Master, Azrael, the Metron with the Mobius chair. That's really cool.
Okay.
I love that character because
does look pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really awesome. And then the Deathstroke, which that one, I don't know if you've seen
Is this Deathstroke matching that Nightwing? like time period?
Probably kind of like that. Like
This seems really Teen Titans heavy.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It is. I mean, they've got the. I mean, other than Garth, the Beast Boy. Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, they have
Beast Boy's not Teen Titans.
No, he is.
Oh,
yeah, but those are the only two. They have the Stephanie Brown Batgirl or whatever for people who are fans of that character. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think that those figures look cool, and I'm like, hey, you may as well, jump in and like get what you can before they leave. And obviously,
if somebody told me that their strategy was to swoop up the McFarlanes here at the end, I would be like, yeah, that's a good idea, because those are gonna carry weight, or because they're stronger at the moment and you just like them and you want to take advantage of it because 5 years from now the business side of it just isn't gonna matter to you.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, yeah, that's a good idea. Like I'm also seeing on here too. There's a Kingdom Come Superman. Did you see that? That is the cover of the Kingdom Come book, but like I don't know, I can't even tell from this image if that is in box or not, but it's that red kind of, so it looks cool like this, but if you take it out, then it kind of is nothing.
Yeah.
But like, that's again, why didn't they do this years ago?
Right.
And then the other thing from DC, I don't know if you caught it, actually two things, the Superman and Godzilla.
See, I
love
both things. I don't need them together.
Same.
And I also don't need it's like, oh, he's like half the size. Even they come with a small Superman. Yep. It's still too big for Godzilla.
Which also, the small figure suggests to me that the other figure they're telling you it's out of scale. It's like when Carl's Jr. was like, now with no GMOs. Well, you're telling me that you had them before, or not GMOs, antibiotics. Now with no antibiotics. Okay, you just through a bullhorn told me that there were antibiotics before. So the two Supermans, I was like, one of these is wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, again, it's like, okay, for the Superman fan, great. For the Godzilla fan, great. Like, in theory, ask me when I'm 10 and I might be like, okay. But also, like, I just see that different, because to me, the best thing about being a Godzilla fan is how big he is. Yeah. And I don't need that. Like, I would, like, give me a over the top scaled Superman, or Godzilla, and then I'll just use another Superman.
The other thing from McFarlane, I don't know if you saw this, and actually the last thing about McFarlane, because I feel like this has turned into the beat Todd McFarlane over the head with a stick podcast. Yeah. Did you see the Straight to Ross?
I did see something about that.
So they're showing off here a Superman, the movie that's coming out.
That's just straight.
Superman Straight to Ross, but it's on a card. It's on a blister card.
Yeah. It's a Ross exclusive, like literal. And for those of you who do not know, Ross is a very secret backup place to go get amazing figures sometimes.
Yeah. It requires hunting.
Yeah, it's a hunting, but during the holidays, like right around Thanksgiving, Ross is just going to be flush with figures that didn't sell. So like John and I know when they drop something, we're like, oh, that's a Ross exclusive. Like it'll be there, no doubt.
Yeah.
So yeah, finding those for $4.99, but the fact that they're making actual Ross exclusive figures
in the McFarlane packaging, which I don't like that huge box, but I do like the color scheme kind of details of it.
Yeah.
On a card, it looks really, really good.
Yeah.
So definitely look that up. But
they're cheaper because they come with 0 accessories.
Yeah. McFarlane accessories suck. So great. Switching over to Marvel, basically all those Gamerverse 2-packs that got announced last week or whenever that was, those have all hit pre-order in various places now. But they just announced another one, which is a 3-pack that is from the game Snap, which is a phone game. And it's the Savage Land X-Men, and it's got Sauron, Rogue, and I actually don't know this girl's name. You know who that is?
I don't know who that is.
Get at us at My Champions. Let us know what idiots we're. I don't know who this like savage girl with the spear is. But the game Snap is the other 50% that got me back into collecting.
Interesting.
So I had dropped collecting for a long time. Then I started watching Ethan Page's vlogs where he was toy hunting, and I got super into watching those. And I was saying to my girlfriend, I'm not going to spend any more money on action figures. I'm just going to watch these vlogs and be a responsible boy. Then I started...
Pinocchio knows.
I fully believed it.
Yeah.
I really, really meant it.
Yeah.
Then I started playing the Marvel game Snap.
Okay.
And your mission, so to speak, is to put together teams because they fight better. You know, if you put Cyclops and X-Man and Wolverine and Storm together, they're going to fight better than they would if they were a mishmash with S.H.I.E.L.D. and Inhumans.
Yeah.
And I was having a great time putting together teams. And then I was telling people then, I don't need to buy action figures because I can just gather the X-Men in Snap. And then there was just a day where, I don't know,
snapped.
I snapped. I just
Yeah.
couldn't take it anymore. And I was like, I need them physically in my hand.
Yeah.
And you've seen what happened
Exactly.
from that point forward. But yeah, that was basically the game Snap, and Ethan Page is basically what combined to like create my reawakening.
Yeah, well, that's a good point because we kind of touched on a little bit about what we were collecting when we were younger, but now I'm thinking about it from the angle of like what got you back into it, you know, like what made you buy it as an adult where you're like, I'm going to play with it, which I guess that's your origin story of getting into it, watching the vlogs. But for me, I feel like I never really got away, maybe from the age of like 14 to probably 22, something like that. And I had bought some from Dragon's Lair, which is a comic book store here. I guess there's like franchises, but yeah, here, Dragon's Lair, a couple of Batman and the Doomsday Clock or whatever it was, the storyline that came out. And then I basically restarted in 2022, just like pursuing it. And that's where we had met and kind of started talking about it fully because I walked in and you were on your computer on the Hasbro Pulse website. And I was like, are you on Hasbro Pulse right now? And you were like, you collect action figures? Like, yes. And then we talked about...
Do you want to be best friends?
Exactly. And then we talked about it. And then after like a good chunk after that, I was like, I'm not a collector. I don't really care. I'm just going to buy what I like. And then slowly I started developing more and more rules.
Oh, yes, you are.
Well, because you were like, oh, I don't like I'm going to buy this on keep it on card. And I'm like, that's perversion of nature. And for me, I'm like, dude, I'm going to rip it open as fast as I can. But then it just started to like get into my veins. And then I'm like, okay, but I still open everything because like that's, in my opinion, that's like the way to do it. I think if I was like, okay, if I was a millionaire or whatever, maybe I'd buy.
Over your shoulder, your girlfriend's got the X-Men 2000, the X-Men movie, the OG X-Men movie figures, like almost all of them, it looks like. And she's got them on card on the wall. You don't think that looks sick as hell?
I think it looks amazing. That's what I was going to say. If I was a millionaire or whatever, I'd probably buy 2 of each and display the boxes. But trust me, I've already tried to open those many a times.
She keeps busting you or what?
But her goal is she needs to finish the collection. So she needs to get a lot of the
She wants to do one big tear?
She wants to do the big tear, but there is a display of the Statue of Liberty from the movie. That's the head. You know,
that is like X-Men. It's part of the line.
Yeah, it comes with that.
Never heard or seen this.
It's weird. It's not really super scale. It's just the head, and it says Statue of Liberty. And she had saw in a major figure. What is it called? Major Wrestling Figure Podcast or whatever. Yeah. In one of their videos, because I was watching it, where they saw somebody display like the line in combination with the Statue of Liberty head, and she freaking flipped out. And that's kind of what got her to buy it. So when we went to Dallas Fitness Toys the first time, that's what she ended up getting. And that's her rule with it, is that she's like, I can't open these until I have the head and then the remaining figures of like the main heavy hitters.
As much as I will be really sad to see those figures opened, the idea of collecting an entire line and then tearing them all open sounds like the greatest day of all time.
Of course.
I just don't want to witness it when it happens to these specifically. But that's a pretty cool play.
Yeah. In fact, like I was looking at the Statue of Liberty head the other day on eBay. Dude, $50 maybe. It's crazy. It's just like that line is so inexpensive. It's almost cheap.
Yeah.
You know, like
I saw one of them the other day at Collector's Crossroads, which is a store here in Austin that we could do an entire episode on. We'll spare you guys right now. But I saw it was just in really bad shape. The like box was in really bad shape. But like,
I guarantee they were charging too much for it.
Yeah, they were charging way too much for it. But like, yeah, it just looks so cool together. I haven't seen it together like this in a really long time.
I mean, those alone, again, I think when we went to Misfit Toys in Houston, she, I think maybe got one or two there. I don't really remember, but they were $10.
That's crazy.
In box. And they were not in bad shape. But anyway.
All right. So we recently took a trip about 3.5 hours up to Dallas, and we went to a store called Dallas Vintage Toys. And we're going to do a quick review about the store, and then we're going to tell you guys what it is that we got and why. So you should probably follow them online. Follow them on, I think, YouTube and Instagram.
Instagram, they post chronically, and then on YouTube as well. They put up videos.
Pretty much anyone who does toy hunting online, they're going to tell you that it's like one of the greatest toy stores that they've discovered. And it's like something that has just eluded me for years. I just haven't found the time to get up there until we went last weekend or whatever that was.
Week, yeah.
And my quick review is, I could understand why someone else would think that it's like spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
I found it to be really, really good.
Yeah.
It didn't really, at least on that day, it didn't really suit what I was looking for in the way that I had built it up in my head.
Mm-hmm.
There is a sizable wrestling section, but I didn't find anything I was looking for in it.
Yeah.
And there's a sizable loose section. Like there's a really big loose section.
Really big.
Basically my takeaway from it to shorten things up, if you're early on in your collection and your checklist is wide open,
yeah,
that place is heaven.
Yeah.
Where I'm at with a shorter checklist, which in all fairness probably would be the case pretty much anywhere. It was tough for me to find stuff. I did find stuff, but I did really, really enjoy it. It was worth the trip, and I would go back.
Yeah, I mean, it was my second time going, and I was like, I think it has everything. Like in my opinion, it'll have everything that anybody needs, from like a broad collection perspective. Like it had tons of Marvel Legends. When we got there was a guy that had like 3 or 4 of them in his hand. I was like, oh crap, did I just like
3 or 4 of those big square Toy Biz boxes?
Yeah, and I was like, yo, do I need to jump this guy in the parking lot real quick? Because I was like looking at his hands, and I'm like, okay, I got that. So I was just making sure he wasn't robbing them of the gas. But yeah, and it's like really super organized. Like,
from a cleanliness and organization standpoint, unsurpassed.
And the staff is like insanely knowledgeable. Obviously, like if you've watched their YouTube channels, like they're constantly talking about their process of the store. And yeah, I mean, it's a really, really good collection, and it's not that big. I mean, they did say they were expanding when we were there.
It's not small at all.
It's not small. Yeah. I mean, we spent probably an hour and a half there, and what was crazy, it was a Wednesday at like 11:45 when we got there, and around noon, it just started like popping off. I mean, it was crazy busy. People that, I mean, obviously we came from Austin. There were other people there. It was like from North Carolina or whatever.
Did you sign the guest book?
I signed it the last time I went there. They kind of have a guest book where you can sign kind of where you're from, because obviously people literally travel from all over the country to go there, and rightfully so. One of the things that I think is probably one of the bigger attractions, especially for like the big name collectors. So people like your, obviously like from your wrestling space that are like, big collectors that got some cashish on them, where they're going to go get big items. They have that entire room that's of all graded figures.
Yeah, vintage graded room. A whole room that is behind the Castle Grayskull.
Exactly, which I didn't go in the first time because I was like, yeah, I mean, a lot of those figures they were before my time, like the Kenner Star Wars or whatever, and then the Ninja Turtles, like a lot of those crazy unpunched. I mean, most of those start at like $1,000 or whatever, and they just go up. I mean, I think there's a Boba Fett that's like $599,000 there. it's like
easy. I got that in the couch.
Exactly. So, but yeah, so I'd say that's like one of the bigger attractions. And, but yeah, I mean, like we walked away with some cool stuff. The pricing, I think, is pretty fair. I feel like the staff I think is worth it because they're really knowledgeable, really helpful, always have like good attitudes the times that I've gone in there. And yeah, other than the weird lady that brought her dog in there and was trying to sell Care Bears for drug money or whatever it was, it was like,
dude, let's start a band. It's called Care Bears for Drug Money.
Care Bear Drug Money. Yeah, there you go. But she, that was a little weird. That was funny. They handled it well because it's like, for us, we kind of know this space of just toys and reselling, which we'll talk about because we've both have done some reselling of toys. And, you know, like, yeah, I think she was sitting, they offered her like $200 for like a trash bag full of Care Bears.
Yeah.
And she turned it down and,
yeah,
you know,
begrudgingly turned it down.
Yeah.
She was big mad.
And I was like, you know, where are you going to get, you're like, nowhere else is going to offer you that money. Yeah. So whatever your journey is, may God be with you on your quest. Because
best of luck to you in your future endeavors.
Exactly. So we kind of talked about it earlier, but what you bought was,
Yeah, so what I ended up walking out with was I had a whole shopping list, you know, theoretical potential shopping list when I went in. My approach is I keep documents, what are they called? Like Word docs
Google Docs,
with like with an actual checklist of what it is that I need for all of my different collections. I just remembered another one that I forgot to bring up, which was vintage video games. Not really our space here on this podcast, but it is something that I collect. And so what I walked out with was I needed a Robocop for my movie shelf. So I got the NECA Robocop because I have not seen that. I have not seen that in the wild since I decided to do a movie shelf. Before I decided to do a movie shelf, I was up to my eyeballs in Robocop NECA figures at every Target that I was going to multiple times a week. And I went, that's cool. I'm not going to buy it. And then as soon as I decided I was going to have a movie shelf, those dried up. So I ended up getting a loose one in great condition at Dallas Vintage Toys. I wasn't sure whether or not it had the pistol because I couldn't see it in the bag. It turned out it was inside of his leg. And the fact that his leg opens up like it does in the movie was extra cool to me. Fantastic figure. I also got for my PlayStation 1 collection the Die Hard trilogy game, which is just a gem from my childhood. I have fired it up
for PS1,
PlayStation 1.
Yeah,
I have fired it up. It's as great as it was the day that I did it in 1996, and I just adore that thing to death. And then, like we talked about, I got that Indiana Jones, which is like slightly utilitarian in the sense that like I like Indiana Jones. I included Indiana Jones in this shelf because I just sort of felt obligated, less than I love Indiana Jones. And that figure, which is one of the modern Hasbro, new vintage Hasbros that I think was huge in like 2020 because it's only in the windowless boxes.
Yeah.
That figure sucks. Won't stand up, nowhere to hang the whip or like hook the whip to him. The leg came off when I opened it out of the box.
Yeah.
I can get it to just stand there and it's fine and it suits this shelf, whatever. But if you are an avid Indiana Jones fan, I would say don't collect these figures, honestly.
Crazy.
Like that's kind of where I'm at.
It'd be worth pursuing maybe the vintage line.
I don't think the vintage ones are good either, in my opinion.
I mean, you know, tie it in with the movie and like if you watched it at the time and then loved that, like that's how I look at it. It's like, you know,
I haven't done a deep dive on Indiana Jones, but I've never seen Indiana Jones figures that got me itchy before.
Interesting.
But if you're an Indiana Jones fan, get at me at Mighty Champions and tell me I'm wrong and why. I get me itchy about it.
Yeah.
Get me excited about it because I would love to have a reason to want to collect them. But what did you walk out with?
I wanted to get multiple items. There were a lot of the loose figures that I found that I was like kind of just stapling in my brain that were DC Universe classics, a Booster Gold and some like Jon Stewart Green Lanterns that I was looking at. But then I'm like, well, I know I'm here to get the Marvel Legends Toy Biz because I had saw them post on Instagram. They got like a whole new wave of them. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to save my bullets. And then if I find anything, or if I don't find anything, or if I get one of those and then like pick up some loose figures, whatever. But I ended up just walking away with two. I got the variant, I guess red suit variant of the Angel action Marvel Legends figure. Massive wings, looks like Brad Pitt in the face. And it is it's part of the Sentinel Build-A-Figure wave, and that is the second figure that I bought recently that is also part of that wave. So now I feel like I'm gonna complete that, which is really cool because I was kind of close on completing those back in the day, and I just have none of those left over. And then I bought a Daredevil, like the very first Daredevil from the Spider-Man Classics line from 2001. That I would dream about when I was younger. And he was another one that I never found in stores, but always saw it on the back of the Amazing Spider-Man Fantasy, Spider-Man figure that came out. And I loved the articulation. I mean, the figures, they're like, I mean, I love the way they look. Like somebody else might judge them and be like, they're nowhere near as good as today. You might be like one of those people, but
I get the appeal.
But like, oh my God, it's just
to me, scale and articulation is a huge selling point. And, and what do you call it? Accuracy. Or
the articulation is amazing. They can do whatever, but like the like dimensions are kind of funky.
The appeal of your era, I fully understand it.
Great. Yeah. So I walked away with that. And what was awesome is that the price of both of them were like not bad. I want to say they were like $30 each, which I was like, this is freaking awesome.
For vintage, that's glorious.
Yeah, literally. And I was like, that's perfect for me because I had sold some action figures the day before. Just kind of cleaning out some, like making space essentially. And then like, as you quoted the time, that like stuck with me, which is like kind of justifies, I feel like having a collection, which is like when you sell to fund the habit. And I'm like, that makes me feel less guilty for spending money. So I sold some figures and then basically just paid for those essentially with that. And then I walked away, bought my girlfriend a Sylvester, little like kitschy kind of knick-knack kind of thing.
I remember we had a conversation where you said like, I gotta make sure I get something for her because she'll be upset if I don't.
Yeah.
And I was like, we have very different girlfriends because if I walked out of here with a tchotchke Sylvester for my girlfriend, she'd be like, why the hell did you spend money on that?
Yeah. Well, like, I had sent, like I said, with her, she's like a pretty big collector. So I know what she does like with like Snoopy stuff or like she does like, like Marvel and Barbies. And I'm looking at all these things. I'm like, okay, here are some Bratz dolls. And I'm like, okay, look at that price tag. Go ahead and slide that back in and act like it never happened. And then I found like some greased Barbies and I'm like from the movie and I'm like, oh, this is $75. Go ahead and put that back. And I'm like, oh my God, like everything, that she's into, it's like, oh, those price tags start climbing and climbing and climbing. But, I mean, it's a definite like return to, they seem like the place, which we'll dive into this in religious detail as time passes on about the battle that we have with the toy stores that are in our area in Austin. Yeah. Which is, and part of the gripe is that, it's just like stuff doesn't move, right?
Yep.
They're like museums. They just have the same things over and over and over again. And places like that do obviously, like, you're not going to have every day where people walk in and be like, I want to buy $5,000 worth of toys, but it does happen. But they're like constantly just putting things out. And it's like, that's what's cool about it is that I know if we had gone back, we went there on a Wednesday. If we went back Saturday, they would likely have new stuff out because there were so many people in there just buying and buying and buying and buying and buying, that it made me really happy for them. And that it's like, hey, this reality exists where like these people like are passionate about this thing that they're giving their whole life to. And there's like, one, for the store owner, it's like there's a way to live like profitable on this. And people, it's such a niche space that is not so niche. I mean, their YouTube videos probably like have 50,000 views or whatever. Like that's not like small, right?
No, that's revenue.
And people are literally driving from all over the country to come visit the store. So yeah, I mean, it was cool. And I feel like experiences like that are just like really worthwhile. And while we don't have that in Austin yet, it makes it more fun for us to just be like pack up and head out.
I love the idea of, look at my girlfriend's asking me what I want to do for my birthday. And I said, just take me somewhere where there's a dope toy store and a vintage Pizza Hut. That's it. It's it.
That's all, like, you know, if you want to describe the,
because I'm turning 10 every year.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, there's nothing better than that. And like being able to go to, you know, finding these new toy stores and like vintage toy stores, going in them, and then just like spending a day just to engulf everything you can about it. And, you know, I feel like it's a thing that, you know, I look at it as pretty niche, right? We look at it as like when we talk to other people in our life that obviously it's like, hey, I'm 32 years old and I collect Batman toys. It's like, you know, it's not always going to be received well, but a lot of the times I get less of like a weird reaction and more so of like, that's awesome. And like, you know, my band, we went into a toy store in San Juan, Texas, big bad toy store, went in there, and, you know, they're not like avid collectors at all, but they could relate because it's like, regardless if you care about it today, you cared about it when you were 9.
There's a store, I forget where it's at. Maybe I'll update you guys on the next episode. That is called I Used to Have That. That's the name of the store, because amazing. I think everyone is susceptible to that.
Yeah.
To that feeling. But yeah, that's Dallas Vintage Toys. On the next episode, which we are going to shoot for weekly. Yeah. I don't know what day that's going to be. I don't even know what day this episode is going to come out. But as time goes on, if you stick with us, we will nail that down and get a routine going. But as we are recording tomorrow, we are going to go to Chemical Toy Fair.
Chemical Toy Fair.
Here in Austin. So on the next episode, we'll be able to report back from Chemical Toy Fair. We'll have our weekly purchases for what we acquired there and elsewhere. And then we'll be able to break you guys down on that. Hit us up at Mighty Champions. We want to know what you picked up this week. Yeah. We're trying to create a community here. Like Christian was just saying, some people act weird when you tell them that, in my case, I'm 42 and that I bought my 5th Wolverine. Not you, though. You decided to click on this episode, so you're down. So give us a follow. You know, hit that subscribe button.
It's like, at the end of the day, like, if I'm happy and you're not, like, sucks. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. if buying a Superman toy, like, I joke around, like, with your birthday, you're like, oh man, I just want to go to a freaking sit down Pizza Hut and a toy store. And I'm just like, I'll bow before that and I'll kneel. And it's like, if somebody said, what do you want to do before you die? That. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. Last meal, Pizza Hut, bro.
I'm simple. You know what I'm saying? So.
But, yeah, thank you guys for listening. Definitely hit that subscribe button. Follow us on the Instagram. And we will be back in somewhere around a week. Thank you guys for listening. Peace.
Thank you for listening to Mighty Champions Action Figure Radio. Built for the hunt, born for the shelf. The battle never ends.